Welcome back to the Paranormal Girl Podcast. I am your host, Kristen. We are back with yet another fabulous episode. My guest returns for his second appearance on the show. The first time he was on, we discussed Mandela effect and the afterlife, and it was a wonderful conversation. Today's discussion is a bit more UFO-ish, as he has some strange personal experiences and thoughts to share on the topic. Before I bring him on, a word from today's supporter of the show. Ladies, are you ready to make the men in your life beach ready and turn their grooming game up a notch? This summer, give the gift of the Beard Hedger Pro Kit from Manscaped. With this game-changing tool, they can shape their beards like true beach babes and make heads turn wherever they go. Visit manscaped.com, use code PNG, and enjoy 20% off and free shipping. Surprise your favorite guy with the ultimate grooming upgrade and show them some love with Manscaped. It's time to tame his mane, ladies. And it all starts with the Beard Hedger. This trimmer has a rotary wheel that gives him 20 hair-cutting lengths, all with one guard, so no more messy drawers full of extra add-ons. And it's waterproof, so he can shave in the shower and avoid all that hair in the sink. So save your drawers, save your sink, and say goodbye to his stubble troubles. And get 20% off and free shipping with the code PNG at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com and use code PNG. Manscaped Beard Hedger. One stroke, one guard, 20 lengths. My guest is the host of the Xtreme Paranormal Podcast. During today's chat, we discussed the focus of his newest season, Paranormal State by State. Very cool idea. We also talk UFOs, which these days I'm pretty keen to discuss if you have gathered yet. He has his own sightings of quickly moving unidentified objects in the sky. He shares some thoughts about ET's involvement in crop circles. And he has a rather unexpected story from his childhood of having seen a photo that he probably shouldn't have seen of debris we've always been told was nothing more than pieces from a weather balloon. Please enjoy my conversation with Mike from the Xtreme Paranormal Podcast.
Mike Xtreme, and I do the Xtreme Paranormal. And, I kind of been around everywhere. I currently live in Ohio, so up in Jim Harold land, and which is something, there's other things in Ohio that I want to talk about today if possible. And, the Xtreme Paranormal is basically, I look at it as an educational podcast as well as paranormal, to where it's learning and teaching. So, that's basically it. And currently I'm doing all 50 states.
Yeah, that's your current season, right?
It is, yes.
Where are you at right now? What did you just cover?
I've covered Alabama so far, and we are currently in Alaska.
In Alaska, yeah, that's a big old state. I can imagine there's more than enough material to pull up from there. There's some interesting cryptids in that area.
There is.
Nice.
I haven't got too far to those yet, but so far it's looking like every state's going to be like a three things for each state. But Alaska and Florida, I'm looking at doing 4 parts for both of those states.
Alaska and Florida. Wow. Yeah. Florida is huge with the paranormal. Huge. I got to talk to Christopher Balzano, and he's done quite a bit of work with the Florida Oogie Boogies and all kinds of weird stuff going on down there. Yeah, you'll have to check him out. Check out his book. I think it was called Ocala Forest, Haunted Ocala Forest. I don't know. I'll send it to you after we're done recording here.
Okay,
But
perfect.
really, really interesting expose of just all this paranormal stuff down in the area. Well, you really run the gambit for the topics that you cover on your show. I love the new idea. I love covering state by state and giving people just this really just clear view of what they could come to expect if they should visit that state, or to pique somebody's interest about a state that they've never heard anything come out of. But you do really run the gambit on all of the topics that you cover on your show. What ultimately draws you to the ones that you do cover? What is it that speaks to you?
Um, I try and stay away from currently with all the 50 states. I'm trying to stay away from the more mainstream, like with New Hampshire. We already know Betty and Barney Hill. So I'm trying to stay away from that and put something new in there. Like
Right.
what's something that's not covered by the mainstream, like Alaska. I just learned they have the Alaskan Triangle.
Mm-hmm.
So that's new for me. It's like, cool. Let's talk about that. Let's dive into that a little bit.
Yeah, I don't know much about it. I know Mike Ricksecker talks a lot about Alaska Triangle. You might check him out. But I really don't know much about it at all. I know it's kind of like the Bermuda Triangle set in Alaska. That's about it, the
Yep.
extent of my knowledge on it. Well, very cool. Well, you've been at this for a while. I think you and I are kind of neck and neck here. What with everything that you have covered to date, everything that you've come across, having been at it for so long, you must have landed on certain conclusions and different theories. And I'm just curious, what has been the biggest personal transition for you personally? Something that maybe you thought one way about at the beginning, and now that you're at this stage in the journey, you think totally different about, or something that's changed your ideas.
I think it's just the more I do research and the more I learn, the more I realize I don't know. It's leaving me more questions than answers, and I love that. And I put it to my listeners: if I'm in your state or you're aware of this, if I mispronounce this, if you're aware of this, let me know. Teach me.
Right.
So I find myself as more of the student at times, and I think that's just amazing.
Yeah, yeah. I learned so much from the listeners and from those guest chats. Those are the moments that my mind has been blown. I'm like, what? I didn't see that coming up to this. I've never heard of that. That's crazy. Like, those are the kinds of facts that I really like to get. Well, you mentioned you'd like to talk about Ohio at some point down the road. You will be covering Ohio and their
Yeah.
paranormal and entities on your show. But you said you had a couple of things you wanted to talk about Ohio today. What you got?
Well, it's now this is me just being overly curious. So here's where curiosity gets the best of me. It's we had, I believe it was 1941. You brought up Cape Girardeau, Missouri. And Missouri is my home state.
Mm-hmm.
So we had the crash there. Now, and then we had 6 years later, we had Roswell. Now everything goes up, everything from both, and probably more that I haven't found out yet, went up to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base here in Dayton, Ohio, which is about 4 hours from me.
Yeah,
So it's
yeah.
like,
It all ends at in Dayton
it
for
does.
some reason. What's going on up there?
And now I'm trying to, maybe it's me, maybe I'm overthinking it, but I'm trying to connect the dots. Like, you've got two things that we're aware of that end up in Dayton.
Hmm.
Then we have, you know, the SpaceX program, and now they're trying to put that stationed out of Dayton. What's
Oh,
going on in Dayton? you know,
yeah, yeah.
that's got
Maybe
me
because
curious.
is it because it's so central, do you think? Maybe?
And that's a theory.
Hmm.
Um, I That's a possibility, but I don't know.
Okay. Okay. All right. So just Mike over here trying to connect the the dots of why all of the UFOs are taken to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. There's a couple of Air Force bases if you start going through the history and the backlog of UFO sightings and all of that. There's like a handful of these Air Force bases that these materials are taken, but not really taken, but they're taken there. Um, and it's just a
Yeah,
few, it's just a few
exactly.
of them. Yeah. Well, you have spent a great deal of effort diving into various UFO and ET topics, like you said, Cape Girardeau. You did cover Betty and Barney Hill. You did talk about Roswell, but you, sir, have some very interesting personal experiences with this subject. I would love to
That
get
I
into
do.
it. Yes, I would love to hear those stories.
Absolutely. Did you have any questions before I get into it, or just jump right into it?
No, just jump right into it. I am all ears.
Okay. Well, from a small kid on, probably from about age 10 on, I've experienced missing time. At one point, I spent a lot of time in Northern California at my grandma's house. And we were cleaning her closet or something. And we came across like all these old photos that she had from her first husband. And I mean, I can say his name is Rick. I mean, he's long passed. And he was actually at White Sands Missile Proving Ground in New Mexico when Roswell happened.
Wow.
I'm not asking questions of where these pictures came from, but they were actual pictures of the footage of the wreckage.
Ooh. So you saw these pictures, you held them in your hands.
I did.
All right. All right. You gotta spell to us what was in the picture. What did you see? What did it look like a weather balloon? Was it tinfoil?
Um, it was not a weather balloon. It was definitely not that. Um, you could tell it was an aircraft, but not like a Cessna plane or anything else. And there was a partial of what you could see. I thought it was like a doll or a small child, but could it have been one of the aliens? Very possible.
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't like a full, like CSI shot like you're going to get now. I don't
Right.
think that they had that in 47.
Well, back in the 50s, I think one of the cover-ups was that, oh yeah, we were dropping test dummies out of out of
Yeah,
a
test
plane.
dummies.
That's what you saw, even though we said right before this that there weren't any bodies, blah blah blah. But yeah, people just wouldn't leave it alone. There were bodies. So they're like, yeah, it's test dummies. They were able to say something like that for some reason because these whatever it was that people were seeing didn't look human, maybe looked
Exactly.
a little different, little off. Yeah. Now, were you clear that it was the Roswell debris, or do you think it could have been the other crash in the area, the Corona crash?
Nope. According to Grandma, that was from Roswell.
Wow. Wow. Gosh, it would be great to get our hands on those photos. I know how those things get lost to time.
They do.
Mm-hmm.
And now the house is no longer there.
Oh,
It's a parking lot. So
of
I don't know
course.
whatever happened to it.
Man, the cover up of Roswell will go to no end. Okay, so that was your very first kind of interaction with this phenomenon, or were there
Yes.
anything? Okay. From that point moving forward, what took place?
Well, where she lived, there was a church next door, and she lived on a couple acres. So it was like all just like flat land and everything else. It was not long after I saw that picture that, I mean, the entire light just lit up. And we both went outside and saw something just floating in the air.
Okay. So
And
the sky was lit up,
yes,
and there was an object just hovering.
just hovering.
Okay, go on.
And out of nowhere, it just left, just gone
Huh.
at a speed that you cannot even imagine. It's like,
Okay.
and she had worked around aircraft her entire life. And she's like, I've never seen anything move that fast.
Mm-hmm.
She couldn't recognize what it was.
Wow. What year was that?
Let's see, that would have been probably about 88, 89.
Okay. Yeah, a little too early for it to have been, a drone.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
I may be wrong, but I think the drones even back in the 80s were still like airplane size. Like drones used to be just unmanned airplanes, that the size of them and the
Yeah,
look of
they
them.
were big.
That was it. Yeah. Yeah. All right. You got me intrigued. I'll bite. What else?
Um, living in Arizona, it's
Oh,
a huge hot spot. And, you have the Superstition Mountains out there, and that's a known UFO hotspot.
mm-hmm.
Seen things out there. Um, I was not out there for the Phoenix Lights, unfortunately. But yeah, me and the girlfriend at the time, we were out by the mountains and saw something. Couldn't tell you what it was, but it was not an airplane. It was not, we don't know what it was, but it was flying and it made no noise.
Okay. How was it behaving? Was it flying in a single direction? Was it very low? Was it high up? Was it illuminated?
It had the V shape and the lights underneath,
Oh, okay.
and it was above the mountain, but about how far? It's like it seems a little low for any airplane
Hmm.
to be flying that close to a mountain. And it was just kind of just creeping along, just kind of doing its thing.
Okay, so it
And
was going a little too slow
a little
to
too slow, yeah.
be an airplane. Okay, and that's such an odd shape. I know that we have machines now that are that shape. They're triangular and they look so weird. Um, but yeah, that's it's a very distinct shape. It sticks out to people who see these unidentified flying objects in the sky that are triangle shape. It's just kind of odd.
Yeah.
Sticks out. Yeah. Okay. All right. And did your girlfriend run for the hills at that point? Is
She
that what
didn't
happened?
know what to think. She was just like, what is that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I don't know what it is. it's flying, but that's all I know. She's like, I've never seen an airplane like that before.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I haven't either, and it's moving way too slow.
You know, what's so cool, like what I'm seeing from your stories is every one of these so far, they're essentially shared experiences.
Hmm.
These aren't things that you can look back on and be like, well, it was just me sitting there and I saw a thing. I could have been tired or, crazy or whatever. No, like other people were witnessing this stuff too.
Yeah.
How important do you think it is to like full disclosure? We might reach there at some point. We might get there, but how important do you think it is to this massive discovery of this topic that we have stories like that, shared experiences? Or do you think that singular experiences, people who are just reporting, it was just me, it was in the middle of the night, I saw this thing happen, do you think those are just as valid to the discovery of what's actually going on?
Absolutely. It's very important.
The shared experiences.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And even singular experiences,
Yeah.
because it's, I mean, there's so many ways. I mean, you've got MUFON, you've got the other groups that you report it and they investigate.
Hmm.
They can stamp it. Okay, cool. That's legit. That's the real deal.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think full disclosure needs to happen.
Absolutely. Yes.
It's like, since what, like the mid 90s, I think it's been. How many Hollywood movies have come out? How many, radio shows? I mean, like even with Art Bell and George Norrie and all them. And now how many podcasts are coming out with this? And
Yeah.
they're still trying to hide things. It's like, why? This ain't the 40s. Like,
It's strange. It's strange to yeah, for since 1947, well, 1941 with Cape Girardeau, you suggested that story. Um yeah, since that year they have been desperately trying, scrambling to hide this stuff, and it's so strange to me to see the same thing taking place, almost 80 years later. Like, how long are we going to do this? And you're absolutely right. All of these shows, all of these experts, scientists getting on the horn and saying, no, there's something actually taking place here. Like, how long are we going to do this? Like, I feel like we as a society, we understand, like the vast majority of us understand that something is going on, that
oh yeah.
there are things being covered up here, and we just want the truth. I mean, are we ready for it?
I think so.
Okay. Okay.
You have that one. I don't remember his name, but he's the whistleblower from
David
somewhere.
David
That,
Grush. Hmm.
yes, him. He's like, yeah, we have alien craft and alien bodies.
Hmm. Well, did you catch that though? He would not say alien or extraterrestrial. He would not say. He just said non-human.
Yeah, he said non-human. He
Mm-hmm.
was very specific about
Mm,
that.
mm-hmm. Yeah, that
But
was
it's
a
just like, I mean, good for him, but he's choosing his words carefully.
absolutely yes.
Which, if I was in his position, I would do the same thing.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, he does have to tread carefully, because of the process, how he chose to do this. Like, he can get in quite a bit of trouble if he is found at
Oh
the
yeah,
end of this to have lied about anything. So, yeah, his that interview was just so fascinating, so interesting. And I hear that there's more to that interview that is going to be released. Maybe that was just a rumor. I don't know, but I'll be there. I'll be there to watch it.
oh yeah.
Well, on the note of the government covering things up. When we set up this interview, you mentioned that you would be very interested to talk about a recent subject that I just covered, crop circles, and give me your thoughts on that. And I'm very excited to hear it. So, what's the UFO ET involvement in crop circle formation, in your opinion?
Well, I think Dave and Doug, we're going to start that, all good or bad decisions come from two friends having a drink in the bar, and then they were proven to be false. You know, did they attempt to do things? Sure, why not? As you said in your episode, there was a group of people that were asking for it. It happened, what is it, 500 yards away?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. At the end of
Okay.
White Crow. Yeah. Operation White Crow.
Yeah. So on that, I think the ET alien UFO portion is maybe it's a signal or a map
Okay.
that they're mapping for each other. Like maybe it's a territorial thing. Like, hey, we were here first. You can have this field over here.
Marking their territory. Okay. All right.
I think in a way that's a possibility.
Mm-hmm.
Um, maybe another theory that I'm kind of working on is, different universes and different galaxies.
Okay.
You know, like they said there's like 8 different races of aliens. Maybe it's they have their different areas that they all come from.
How can you are you thinking, are you saying that you can designate like different species based on the formation?
Possibly.
Okay.
I think that would come back to like the carvings in the walls in like ancient Egypt and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's a way of them communicating with us and with each other. Like,
Okay.
hey, human people, we're here. You
Well,
know,
what is the reason behind doing it? Like what's the ultimate goal here? It's just for maybe communication, that's it, or is there a specific motivation to do this?
yeah, I'm going to say communication right now,
Okay.
but I'm keeping my mind open to more.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've seen pictures of crop circles. I couldn't see how two guys doing that would be that precise.
Okay. Yeah. A lot of folks would agree with you. Well, if it's if it's ET in UFOs doing this, which I've seen some very intriguing videos. The one that pops to mind is the Oliver's Castle video of a crop circle being formed by something above it. It's an interesting one. Um, if it is that is taking place, what explains the anomalous activity that take place in and around the crop circles? Do you know what I mean? Like the people have
Yeah.
claimed miraculous healings, and there's physical things like malfunctions of equipment, and there seems to be a strange what it reminds me of is like ley lines where they intersect, and you can go to those
Yep.
house of oddities where the floor is all janky and like those kinds of places. That's what it reminds me of.
One thing I was just actually looking at this week is crop circles are the Earth's magnetic forces doing that.
Hmm.
Maybe.
Okay.
I think that could be a part of it, but I'm not 100% sold on that.
Okay.
Um, like equipment malfunctioning. I don't know, like if airplanes, their equipment goes wonky,
Mm-hmm.
I would say that could be it. But that's, I'm keeping an open mind on that one. I'm still,
Yeah.
I'm still kind of on it's a communication and possibly a map
Okay.
from our otherworldly friends.
Okay. So I take it you disagree with the 80-20 split that Colin Andrews finally landed on.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Are you more of a 100-0 split?
I'm going to go with, yeah, that sounds about right.
Okay.
I think it's our otherworldly friends
Yeah.
doing something. It's a way of communicating, maybe with us or with each other, or it's a map for them.
Mm-hmm.
It's extraterrestrial hieroglyphics
Yeah.
on a huge scale.
Yeah. Well, I do kind of I agree with Colin's final assessment because what he was ultimately getting at with that split is it's not necessarily that 80% is just being done by hoaxers, end of story. What he was trying to say was with human consciousness that it can be man-made and still being affected by something outside of them. So it's not like they're possessed or anything, but they're in a lot of these circle makers stories, circle makers who have come forward, they do describe these strange compulsions and impulses to create these magnificent designs out of nowhere. That they've shown up as hoaxers to create a circle because they just like to do it. They've shown up to site and suddenly had a compulsion to make something completely different upon arrival, and that's what they did. Just last minute went and did these things, and then they describe all these anomalous things, activities happening while they are working on the circle as well. So there seems to be this very big influence taking place on both sides, whether it's being made by UFOs flying over it or people being affected through their consciousness by something, I don't know, something bigger than them. I find that very interesting. So in that consideration, I do fall in line with the 80-20 split. I'm all right with that.
I'd go more probably 90-10
Okay.
because you have the Earth's magnetic field. You'd have to take into consideration the ley lines.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there's something there, but what I don't think we're gonna know.
Okay. Yeah, you'll have to. I didn't even touch ley lines. I couldn't go there. And I did not dive deeply into anything magnetic. You ought to cover it on your show. I'd be curious to learn
I
about
will
it.
do that.
Yeah. All right. I only had one other question regarding crop circles, and then we'll leave it at that. Was the government covering it up, and why?
Yes, and why? I have no idea. It's that's going to be a question for the ages. Why do they cover everything up?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. Well, hopefully, Grush keeps it coming, and Gary Nolan keeps it coming, and Avi Loeb, and just everybody who's working diligently on this mystery. They keep it coming until there's just nowhere left to hide, and we finally get some answers. That would be nice.
oh, it would be great.
Yeah. All right, sir. It is time for final questions, final thoughts,
All
and
right.
then we'll take it out. Um, so on your show, you had a really interesting episode where you spoke about numbers and their significance.
Yes.
All right. I would love if you could tell us a story about a time that a number or numbers played a significant role in your life, and why is this something we should pay attention to?
I think numbers are just the number 13. I've always been drawn to it. For some reason, people think 13 is a unlucky number. For me, it's a lucky number. And, you get athletes. I only want this number because they've had it since whenever. And, it just comes down to, I think, a personal preference, but also different numbers represent different things to different people. Um, that's just it. It's why is there 50 states, not 51? If you add numbers in a certain way, do they come back to a certain thing? And I think people should be aware of them
Hmm.
to a point, but not be consumed by it.
Okay. Yeah, I see what you're saying. People apply meaning to certain
Yes,
numbers, repeating numbers, a certain collection of them. Like I often see 1111. That's a
yeah, exactly. There's like
pretty
11,
usual
11,
one.
333.
Mm-hmm.
Um, is that a way for people on the other side to communicate with us? Possibly.
Sure.
I think that falls under your personal belief.
Okay. All right. Next question. What is an interesting fact about you that people might be surprised to learn?
Probably some of the best years I spent were in the military, and I've seen and experienced different things while there.
You were in the Army?
I was, yes.
All right. What was your role in the Army?
Originally, it was medic.
Oh, no kidding. I didn't know that.
Yeah, yeah.
See, I'm surprised to learn it.
Absolutely loved it.
Yeah.
And getting ready for deployment during a training exercise ended up destroying my knee.
Oh,
So
gosh.
I was not fit for deployment.
Oh,
And then I ended up driving a desk for a while.
oh. Well, I am sorry to hear that. But you had those years, and you can always look back. You've told me those were the best years of your life.
Absolutely.
And you've always got that. That's very cool. Well, and thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, final question. So you begin skeptically. You try to remain as open-minded as possible on all of the subjects that you cover on your show.
Yes.
You have been exploring and researching it for some time, as we talked about, let alone having those personal experiences. What is one topic or specific story or instance that you are now 100% is real? There isn't a doubt in your mind. And what led you to that conclusion?
There is life after this one. And that comes from having two personal experiences with that.
Awesome.
It's great. You get to see family, friends, and that just comes from experience.
Yeah, that's something you cannot deny anymore. You can't deny it because you've been there. And listeners, please do go back and check out our original conversation, March 22nd last year. He tells those NDE stories, and they were just fascinating. All right. So we've already talked about what's coming up next for your show. You're going to be talking about Alaska and do a multi-part series on that, so listeners can look forward to that. Where can folks find and follow you, and where can they tune into Xtreme Paranormal?
Where they can tune in is if they can find you, they can find me.
Okay.
Pretty much everywhere. If you're on Twitter, I'm on there. I try and be active on there as much as possible. It's just at Xtreme 13 Podcast, and then Xtreme 13 Podcast at gmail.com.
Very cool. And to wrap us up, take us out, do you have any final thoughts, words of wisdom, or a piece of advice you would like to leave with everyone?
Always keep an open mind. That's always, keep your eyes on the skies, keep an open mind, follow your gut instinct. And if you think what you saw, then you saw it. You experienced it.
All right. And Mike, you're going to stay on with me after we cut. We are heading backstage. We're going to have a little chat about shadow people and your personal experiences with them. But for now, I want to thank you so much, so much for joining me today. It's been fun. It was good to see you, kid.
It's been a lot of fun, and thank you for having me back.
Thank you guys for tuning in today, and thank you to Mike for joining me once again. Take a listen to his show, Xtreme Paranormal Podcast. Follow him on the socials. I've got all of his deets below. Now, Mike has shared some incredible stories with me over the years. He shared some of those today, as well as on our previous discussion on episode 30. If you are interested in hearing about his near-death experiences, that episode would be a good one to check out next. But following today's conversation, he joined me backstage to discuss experiences he's had with shadow people. And one encounter that he had with the Hat Man caught me off guard. It was freaky. You can catch that story and other exclusive content at patreon.com/ParanormGirlPod. Become a patron for as little as $3 a month. By doing so, you are supporting the show, supporting everything that I'm attempting to do here, and you can be a contributing voice on subjects for upcoming seasons and special events, or first to know a very special guest I've got scheduled to join me, and first to submit your questions to said guests. And thank you to the folks who have already become a patron. I really, really appreciate it. And yet another way to support the show is, of course, by following at Paranormal Girl Pod on all socials. That'll wrap today's episode. I hope you all have a wonderful, wonderful week. I will see y'all back here Tuesday. Stay safe, keep the nightlight on, and sleep with one eye open.